Firstly, well done to GWM for launching the first hybrid ute in Australia. I think that's a good effort, especially as it is a pretty young brand still in Australia anyway. This is the new Alpha, or Cannon Alpha. It's the bigger brother to the normal Cannon that's been on sale in Australia for a few years now. It's about 35 millimeters longer than the normal Cannon, but it's actually about 75 millimeters longer than a Ford Ranger Wildtrak. So that gives you some idea of just how big this thing is. It's not quite as big as those American pickup trucks, but it definitely is a large offering in this sort of four-cylinder class. Unique to the top level variant is a split tailgate. So you can actually open the tailgate here like barn doors. Tell me if I'm wrong though, but would that really come in handy? I mean, it's got this big metal bracket to hold it all together and these side pillars here that actually take up a little bit of room, so you don't get the width as a normal tailgate, but you can just close it up and just flip down the tailgate anyway. I'm just not sure where it would come in handy splitting it down the middle like that. It does feature a damped tailgate, so it doesn't just slam down. It's actually got two dampers on this one. It's a pretty light tailgate. You can flip it up with one hand relatively easily. And it does have that full width step pad all the way across, although it is just plastic, so it's not super grippy. Going for the hybrid though does add a big premium to the price tag. This is retailing for $64,990, drive away. That's pretty expensive. You could get a pretty high level Triton or a D-Max for that sort of money. However, you are getting a lot of luxuries and features with this model, which we'll get to in a second, but we'll just check out this engine. Then under the bonnet, we've got a 2-litre turbo petrol 4-cylinder engine. It produces 180 kilowatts alone, which is not bad for a 2-litre turbo 4-cylinder, even in this day and age. The premium brands are producing around the same amount of power. But then backing that up is a 78 kilowatt electric motor. Combined, you're getting 255 kilowatts, which is very impressive. It makes it one of the most powerful utes in this specific class, again, excluding the American pickup trucks. But the problem is that electric motor is powered by a very small battery. It's 1.75 kilowatt hours. And it just means that if you're driving up a big, long uphill stint on the highway, that battery drops right down. I don't mean the normal auxiliary battery, I mean the hybrid battery, drops right down until you've got pretty much no power coming from that electric motor. So you're left with 180 kilowatts, which again is not bad, but this thing is pushing 2.6 tons. So 180 kilowatts with 2.6 tons, it's not very impressive. But it also just means it's inconsistent. So if you're driving up a long highway stint and you need to overtake someone and you think, yeah, I've got plenty of power to do that, you put your foot down, if the battery's flat that is, if you put your foot down and it doesn't go that well, and you're thinking, what's going on? It was going fine a minute ago. That's because the battery goes flat so quickly. So I'm going to do some performance tests later on, and we'll do some 0 to 100, and I'll try and get the battery level right down so we can test what it does 0 to 100 with the battery pretty much flat, or as close as I can get to flat. This is not a plug-in hybrid, so you can't charge it up. You have to just rely on the powertrain brains for it to charge up, or during braking or downhill driving. As a result, the real-world economy isn't that great either. I'll show you the trip computer later on. It's an interesting package, the hybrid system, and it's definitely great for GWM to offer a hybrid in this class, but sometimes it feels like they haven't done enough testing and calibration before launching it on the market. They might have rushed it out or something like that. Another thing too to note is with press vehicles, especially the GWM models, I've noticed they're quite early models in Australia. So it doesn't really represent what a customer will get. I know that with the Tank 300, the tech guys have been in and out of the factory where I picked these up from, doing updates to the press cars. So if you're ordering one as a customer, those updates will probably be already applied. And I've got a feeling this is a very early model, the hybrid, even compared with the diesel that I tested not that long ago, because there's a pretty serious issue with the warning systems and the safety systems on this particular vehicle. I was driving along this morning and it just set all these warnings and malfunctions on the dashboard as I was driving along.
Please concentrate
I'll see if it does it again when we go for a drive now. But yeah, a customer might not experience that because they've applied updates. I'm just reviewing what I can see here. So if you've got the updated model with all the updates and you don't have any of these issues, great, that's good to hear. I can only talk about what I've driven here. But yeah, inside, very luxurious cabin, especially for this class. Going for the top model, you get a sunroof, 8-way power adjustable front seats, heated and cooled front and rear seats, wireless charging pad for front and rear as well, and you get a 10-speaker Infinity sound system. That's up from 6, I think, in the base model. In the back, yeah, you've got that wireless charging pad there, heated and cooled outer seats, and you've even got adjustment for the passenger seat on the side there. And the rear seat is actually power adjustable as well, to some level anyway. As I said with the diesel, yeah, plenty of space in here. It's one of the biggest in its specific class. I've got heaps of leg room. I feel like I'm in a big SUV with plenty of space. So if you're looking to buy a ute and you want to carry around the family, or even, you know, 4 or 5 blokes to work every day, this is a good option because it is quite spacious. The top model also gets the opening rear window, which, like with the Navara, I don't know where it would come in handy, but it's an interesting feature to add. You can open that from down here as well. 3.5 ton braked towing capacity with this one as well. But since this is a little bit heavier, you don't get as much leftover payload. So the gross combination mass remains 6,555 kilograms for the hybrid, like with the diesel, but minus the curb weight of 2,575 kilograms, minus 3.5 tons, you're left with 480 kilograms, which is still good compared with a lot of the rivals, but it's not as good as the diesel, which you're left with almost 600 kilograms. So that means you can tow 3.5 tons legally, tow 3.5 tons, pack up the cabin with almost 600 kilograms worth of gear, whereas this one, you can only put sort of 500 kilograms worth of gear. Think about it this way, 4 passengers, 4 big passengers, that's, you know, over 400 kilograms already. Then you've only left with 80 kilograms for anything in the trailer or anything in the tray at the back. But again, check the rivals on this stuff, because some of them you're left with only 200 kilograms or 300 kilograms. So having 500 is definitely very good. And the top spec model comes with the same 265/60 Gitti Cross or X Cross highway terrain tyres. So these are not all-terrains, they're just highway terrains. Which means it's quiet on the highway and relatively efficient, and you've probably got better grip, well, you do have better grip on the tarmac in terms of braking as well. Just means they're not quite as good if you're planning serious off-roading, like with any of the rivals too. All right, we'll go for a drive now. I'll see if those warnings come up on the dash again, and then we'll head out and do the performance test. I'm not going to do a serious off-road test with this one because I found the diesel was quite good. It was actually really good off-road. So I suspect this will be pretty much the same. The only difference is being a little bit heavier. I think the ride is a little bit better in this compared with the diesel. The diesel was very tightly sprung or highly tensioned. We even saw that when it went off the jump, it sort of landed and then continued bouncing. So ideally, even if you take a Raptor or something like that, it'll go off a jump and land and then just absorb the impact. That's it. It won't continue to bounce. But I would prefer a tighter, you know, higher tension spring setup than something that's really soft on a vehicle like this. If you're talking about a luxury sedan, obviously you want absolute comfort. But yeah, a vehicle like this, I think having a higher tension spring rate is better, because it means if you load it up, towing a caravan, whatever, you're not going to be bouncing all over the place. It's going to be, the body's going to be relatively well managed. Just before we hit the road, this touchscreen is actually really good. Let's turn the fan down a little bit. You've got lots of capability here. I like the way you've just got this grid layout for all the main apps, and you can just jump into the vehicle settings by hitting the little car button there. And then there's all your safety stuff. I'll leave everything on. I haven't touched anything. I've just literally just started the car. Most of the climate controls are down here, which is great, but some are not. You do have the aircon button and the air recirculation button there, and fan speed. But if you want to change the temperature, you've got to go into the little tab there on the touch screen. The only problem I'm finding with this touchscreen setup, and with a lot of modern vehicles actually, when you're driving at night time, this is all quite bright, even on the lowest setting. So you can go into the settings here, where was it? Display, and you can turn all this down But even at the lowest setting, it's still too bright. I'd rather have it much lower than that. I mean, it looks dark right now, but it's because we're in the middle of the day. But at night time, it's all brightened up. In the black sections, so even though that looks black now, it's actually like a light. So it's some sort of, light gray at night time. It'd be great if you could just really turn that down. Some models do offer it. I was driving the Volvo XC30. That goes pretty dark, even though it does have a huge screen. I find a lot of the European models, actually, you can turn them right down. But yeah, some of them, like I think this could be a little bit lower. Fully digital instrument cluster, which is, if you're into that sort of thing, it is great for this segment because not many offer a fully digital cluster at this stage. They are going to roll out more and more though. You do have some adjustment here, but not actually all that much. You can change the display on the side there, and you've got another display mode for the central bit. You can swap between two different modes. I've just got it on the safety system mode. But yeah, not all that much adjustment. So there's our fuel consumption, 11.1 litres per 100 kilometres. I don't think that's very good. I know some people have said that this hybrid system is made for performance, not economy. I think that's a load of crap. That's not why a manufacturer launches a hybrid. It is purely to reduce emissions and to allow these vehicles to be driven in some cities and so on where they have emissions restrictions. It's not for performance. And even if it is for performance, this doesn't go all that well anyway. So yeah, I don't think that's true, that's saying that it's just for performance. But 11.1 is not very good economy for a hybrid. I think in a diesel we were scoring 9 or 10. It is a little bit slower, but yeah, you're getting much lower fuel consumption. Like with the diesel, excellent camera setup. I think that's really ahead of a lot of the rivals, and you can change around to the clear chassis mode. So now here's another potential example of just the amount of updates and just being careful of what update you have. On the diesel model, when it showed this top view camera system, the tires were much bolder, so they were a nice black color, so you could see where they were. But also, once I started driving, that grey box disappeared, whereas it's not doing it on this. It's staying there. Now, I don't know if I've got it in the wrong view or whatever, but I didn't fiddle around any more, any differently in the diesel model, and it automatically, the grey box started to disappear. Whereas now it's not. But if you are planning to buy one of these, I would suggest asking the delivery guys to run a check to make sure it's got the latest updates applied. As I said, this is an early vehicle in Australia, this press car, so it's probably, I don't know what stage of the updates it has. While I'm talking, I'm just giving you a bit of a demonstration of this vehicle's size. So this is a typical kind of cul-de-sac turnaround spot, and it just fits around here. The first thing I notice is the ride seems to be a bit comfier in this compared with the diesel, probably because it is just that little bit heavier and it's just compressing the springs down a little bit more to provide a better ride. Weight is an enemy usually, so you don't want extra weight at all costs, but in this case it just makes it a little bit more comfortable in my opinion. I do notice this does have a lot of creaks and rattles from the interior. I don't remember the diesel having that. Again, it could be because this is an early production model, but yeah, even that sunroof is rattling around a bit. That's usually a sacrifice that you have to make because it's just, more moving parts, a hole cut in the roof, glass panels and so on. It just uncovers the possibility or the potential for there to be more rattles and creaks and so on. But even from the doors and the center console, it just seems to be creaking around a bit. This road is very rough. But I like testing vehicles along here because, yeah, it uncovers such potential issues. I'll just leave it on this battery display mode. Hopefully you can see that okay. So you can see what happens, but it's at about 70%. So we're going to be driving down a hill for half this run. So it should charge the battery right up, but then we'll go up the hill and I'll give it some throttle and we'll see if we can get that battery right down and then see how the powertrain behaves. In terms of handling, it's easy to drive. The steering is, it's pretty generic, but it's I can manage it, and you know where the wheels are on the road. It's not intimidating. You've got decent visibility as well. I can see over the mirror there. You can see out the back. Good view out the front. The touchscreen does almost cover up my view a little bit because I'm pretty short and I like to sit quite low. But yeah, overall, I think the visibility is great. In terms of the handling, I know I keep saying this, but I'm just saying it again in case you haven't seen my previous review videos of utes. But if you want the best handling ute, I think the Ford Ranger comes out on top, closely followed by the Toyota Hilux and the Volkswagen Amarok, for that matter. Actually, it's, you know, probably even better than the Ford Ranger in some ways, just because it's got usually lower profile tires and so on. But obviously handling is not a priority with a vehicle like this. I'm just saying that if you do want the best handling ute, then yeah, those are the pick in my opinion. This falls, you know, somewhere in the middle. It's not bad. It's not pushing wide. It doesn't feel uncomfortable even on a winding road. It just doesn't do anything special. There's nothing that jumps out here that makes me think, wow, this is a really nice car to drive along a road like this. It's just normal. You just got to be mindful of that size. So it is wider than a normal Canon, and it's wider than a Ford Ranger Wildtrak. Again, I'm just saying the Ranger Wildtrak because it is the most popular in its class, and also it's commonly regarded as a pretty big ute. Okay, starting to go up the hill now, and you'll see that the battery is almost at 100%. It's just got 1 bar to go, but I'll give it some gas up here. Actually, that was one thing I do notice that I think is quite alarming actually. When you back off the accelerator, it continues to push the vehicle for half a second or something. I'll try and show that to you, but I'm going to lift my foot right up so you can see when I take off the accelerator. But say like half throttle, backing off, it's still going. It's still pushing me along. So that becomes a bit troublesome in car parks and so on as you're reversing out, and I'm not talking about when you floor it, I just mean any throttle application. It will remain on for a little bit, and I think it's that electric motor. It's just not very well calibrated with the overall powertrain brains. I'll just show you again. So this is half throttle, backing off, and it continues to push for about half a second, I reckon. I don't think that's very good. I think they need to get rid of that. When you back off the accelerator, it should back off straight away. But yeah, I'll continue to push it. We'll get that battery right down. Like the diesel, this features a full-time four-wheel drive system, which can be good because it means you get the safety and security of four-wheel drive even on dry tarmac, which is not possible in most of the rivals, except for the Triton and Ford Ranger V6. So I've got the battery. So I've got the battery down to around 60%. Just give it some more gas. Each time I'm braking, I'm charging it back up though.
Please concentrate while driving.
Now it's around 50%. It's still picking up quite well though. It's got good response. It feels powerful for its class. Yeah, it's remaining at about 50%. Another little calibration issue is the braking. Like the brake pedal feels too sensitive, and you push the brakes on and it will kind of continue braking again after you've taken your foot off the pedal. But yeah, mainly it's just very, very sensitive. It's hard to pull up to a stop very smoothly. Out on the highway, we'll see how that battery handles. It's going to be mostly flat along here. It's got those annoying indicators. So BMW had an indicator set up like this about 10 years ago or even 15 years ago. So you just tap it once and it will give you that sort of 3-pulse setup. But when you push it all the way down, it's hard to turn back off without switching over to the other side. In terms of overtaking, so I'll floor it. Yeah, it's definitely picking up really well. The petrol engine feels like it's doing a little bit, but it mostly feels like that electric motor is pushing you along, especially in terms of response. It is relatively quiet and smooth once you're running. partly thanks to those highway terrain tyres. But yeah, even wind noise, even though this is a big bulky beast, wind noise is not too bad. There's a bit happening around that mirror there, but overall it's fairly quiet and refined. Another little quirky thing I've noticed, and I know it seems like I'm just picking on this car, but I'm just noticing things compared with the other rivals. So that's my job, I'm a journalist. I'm trying to stack it up against what else you can get, similar sort of package, and even similar sort of money. But the sunroof here, you have to hold the button down to open it, but then to close it, it's got one press. Usually it's the other way around, and that's so if a kid's got their hands in the top there, it doesn't squash their fingers. Whereas this, you've actually got to hold it to open it, and then you can hit one touch to close it. It's just a bit backwards in my opinion, and compared with other vehicles that I've driven that have a sunroof like that. But there we are, with sustained highway driving, the battery does seem to remain fairly high, around 70%. Although I have been driving on complete flat, but that is good to see that it's able to remain at a consistent level. Alright, let's head out now to the private road and do some performance testing. This is with the battery at about 60%. That was 8.12 seconds. This is with the battery just below 50%. That's about as low as I can get it, because I end up hitting the brakes to turn around and then it charges back up a little bit. We'll see how this goes. Definitely struggling a little bit. Like it's done 11 seconds. Yeah, 11.01 seconds with the battery below 50%. The good thing about being a small battery, it does charge up pretty quickly. So I've just sat here in park and just revved the engine slightly and it seemed to be charging pretty quick. So I'll get it right up to 100%. And we'll do our last run with a full battery. Okay, I think that's as high as the battery will go. I've been sitting here now for about a minute or so, slightly revving the engine to try and get that last bar filled up, but it doesn't look like it goes to that full capacity, probably for safety reasons or whatever. So we'll try it out with at that level. It's probably 90% or something. done 7 point something. .15. There we have it, the new GWM Alpha Hybrid. Look, it's definitely well done to GWM for offering a hybrid ute, the first manufacturer to do so in Australia. It's got some great qualities, like the interior is really nice, the technology is great, although there could be some better calibration of the safety systems. But the hybrid package over the diesel, I just don't think it's the pick. It's got a lot of power, but only when the battery's full. As we saw, there was a massive difference between battery below 50% and almost 100%. 11 seconds down to 7.1 seconds. 11 seconds 0 to 100 isn't that bad. A lot of the diesel rivals were similar to that not that long ago, but it's just the inconsistency. So sometimes you're driving along the highway and you want to overtake or something, you put your foot down a little bit and there's a lot there. Other times you put your foot down and there's not much there. I think that's would be more annoying to me than the diesel, which is quite slow. Did 12 seconds or something, 0 to 100, but at least it's consistent, so you know what to expect when you put your foot down. I also think there's further calibration to be done on the braking pedal feel and that throttle. So you put your foot down, you back off, it keeps accelerating. That should cut off straight away. But overall, a great crack at the 4x4 ute segment. Let me know what you think in the comments below.